Hello, happy Wednesday, everybody. Today is Monday Mentor with Jen, and I am so excited for my guest today. Welcome, Marcia, in the comments. Anybody else, if you're here, just let us know you're hanging out. If you're watching the replay, let us know as well. So I'm Jen Whitmer, and I help teams and leaders solve conflict, cultivate communication, and create empowered teams. And every week, I bring on somebody to tell us their brilliant story of their leadership, to be our mentor and help us grow in our leadership. And today we have the fabulous Stacey Gonzales. So glad she's here. She is a longtime educational leader, served as teacher and principal, and then decided to switch industries and is now supporting education in a very different way. So give a warm welcome to Stacey. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation today.
Yes, me too. Stacey and I were really just met in the comments of LinkedIn and have developed a great friendship. So she is a lovely person to know for so many reasons. She's so wise and has some amazing experience. So let's just kind of start there. Tell us, how did you get here? How did you arrive in this place?
Wow, that's a big starting question, right? How did you get here in this moment?
I know. You can give us the Spark Notes version. It's okay.
Totally. I'm going to start with this. As I was watching the intro play out, you had this idea around growing our leadership so we can have more peace, power, and wholeheartedness and live more wholehearted. And that really, for me, was the thing, this idea of living a really intentional, wholehearted life, right?
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
I had spent 20 years in public education building my career. Actually, I was just telling somebody this the other day. I was a janitor at 18 in Chicago public schools, right? So I really went from, cleaning boys' urinals to the district office seat. And what's really cool about that is I saw a lot of things. I experienced a lot of things. I had a lot of opportunities to build my skill, my leadership over time. And then I found myself kind of burnt out
Mm.
um, and I didn't even know I was burnt out, right? Like I didn't even know that was a thing. And so in 2019, we were on vacation in Mexico over Christmas break. And I was walking on the beach and I remember just being like, can I live from a more wholehearted, spiritual, pure place that
Mm.
really starts from here first? Because I wasn't doing that. And I thought, I don't know anybody that's doing that. I don't hear people talk about living from that way or place. I don't even know what that even means, but like maybe I can figure out what that means. And so that kind of put me on this trajectory of really rethinking everything about my career.
I love that that was the question that you asked yourself. Like, how can I come from a more wholehearted place? And I know, like, just because I know a couple people in the comments, I I know a little bit of what they might be thinking right now. And please feel free to ask us some questions while you're hanging in the comments here. But that wholeheartedness really changes everything. I think you experienced, I mean, two big things that you said. I didn't know that I was burnt out. Because when you're in the middle of it, it's like, I'm just coping. And until you get away, which was what your experience was, you're like, oh, wait, this is too much. I am not coping well. And when you're not living from that wholehearted place, that's what sends us into burnout. There are other factors, systems, and other things that send us into burnout, but you will be guaranteed into burnout if you're not living from that wholehearted place. And you discovered that.
Yeah. And then from that place to today, right? Like that
Mhm.
3 years, almost 3 years, um, if you would have told me how hard it would be and all the, when you start to really dig into that inner place, all the other things that start to come up, I
Yeah.
don't know if I would have had the full courage. And listen, I'm an educator. Like we like plans, we like our lesson plans, we like our school year plans, we like our calendars, we like to know everything. And so had I had known how hard it would be, um, to really deconstruct my identity from my career and really establish who I was, I don't know that I would have done it, to be honest.
Mhm. But now on the other side, had you known this was the result, do you think you might have done it?
Yeah, I mean, I think back to I had this she was the problem, the terrible toxic boss that was gaslighting and all the things, right? And there probably is certainly some truth to that. But now I think, thank God for her. Like, thank God it was as bad as it was. because I don't know if I would have moved through some of the things if it wasn't.
You say I'm immediately resonating with you because that is my experience as well. I remember I had a business retreat this summer where I was doing some really deep work. Like I'm on a business retreat and we're really doing experiential therapy because as a
Mhm.
solopreneur, and I will get up on a soapbox that as a leader, you lead from all of who you are. And as you can only lead as far as you've healed. So we were doing this type of healing work. And I was like, thank the Lord for this toxic boss because I would not be this far along. I would not have feel this free without that circumstance. Now, would I have liked to have it had it another way?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We don't get to change though the story, right?
Yeah.
We get to think about our perspective and
Yes.
the new narrative that we
Yeah.
actually can own. Not lying about the new narrative,
No.
but really owning a new perspective, which is super
Mhm.
powerful as you're leading
Mhm.
in any realm, but leading yourself, right? As you're leading yourself first, how can you really think about what are the stories you're telling yourself and what might the stories be if they were to be
Absolutely.
different?
Yeah. The idea that we have this power and like Kimberly saying we can achieve. I can have this high achievement, but also that disconnect between I'm high achieving but I'm not fulfilled. That's what can also send us into that place of burnout and that's a lot about circumstance and it's a lot about the stories we're telling ourselves like you
Mhm.
just said. So I want to go back a little bit to this idea of the transition time. Sometimes people think, oh, I decided to leave and I had this fantastic vacation and I turned my resume in and now I have a job in educational management. It just worked out great. That was not your experience. So tell us a
No.
little bit about that journey and what did you feel like making that leap?
Yeah, I knew that I had my doctorate's in technology. So I knew that and I'm always been really excited about innovation and possibility and future, right? So I knew that was a space I could probably excel.
Mhm.
But what I didn't know was how um the education industry is just so different when you are in a leadership position versus especially like a tech company.
Mhm.
And so really figuring out like I knew I wanted to be remote. I knew there were certain attributes. I knew I needed like a certain type of a culture, certain types of people in that community and team. And so that took time to like really, really thoughtfully build out what are my values? How do I operationalize those values in real life? Like trust, integrity, communication. Saying those right to you, no big deal. But what does it look like to be in a trusting relationship with my colleagues? Having like spending that deep time figuring that out. So I did that. I connected like crazy with people on LinkedIn to just learn a little. Can I have 15 minutes of your time? I'm going through this. I'm going to want to ask you about this, and I just would like 15 minutes. And
Mhm.
those open up opportunities and conversations. But it was messy and it was muddly and it was like it felt like that whole one step forward, two steps back, or two steps forward. What like that whole thing? There'd be weeks. I mean, I'd cry to my husband like, "How much longer until I have to get a job? How much longer until we can't pay the bills? Like, am I okay?" Right? Uh,
Yes.
and I wasn't going to settle. I wasn't going to start. I had built a career for 20 years and I was in a six-figure salary at the top of my game and in a leadership position. And not to say there's anything wrong with starting, quote, at the bottom. I told you I started as a janitor. I have no problem being, at the bottom, but I didn't want to start in a like entry level 22-year-old out of college type of a position in a tech company.
Yeah.
So that required a whole different level of execution to move through that and to find a company that could see the experiences that I was going to bring as well as some expertise.
Yeah. Well, I love what, just to kind of underline a few of the things that you said, it was a process. It's like you had to take some time to figure it out, especially if you're experiencing burnout. Like if you've experienced burnout, it takes a little bit of time to heal from that, then go back and review, who do I want to be and what are the places? Like you work time on your values. So this week I'm doing a workshop called Catalyst Impact, and we're going to go through a leadership audit. And one of them is your values.
Yeah.
Like, do you even know what they are? And can you, exact word, operationalize them? And if you aren't sure, that's a place to start growing. And then you knew your worth. Like it's not, you're like, I'm totally comfortable doing the dirty work, literally.
Literally.
I love that. I mean, you literally are comfortable doing the dirty work, but you also know that you don't need to start at the bottom again. And I think that's what can be really scary as people switch industries. And sometimes we were chatting beforehand, like some people think you have to become a solopreneur or an entrepreneur. And that wasn't your experience. You can switch industries and work in another organization and take what you have with you.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how you started to quantify or maybe qualify, probably both, your skill set into a different language. Because I feel like that's what it is when you switch industries. How did you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. I volunteered a ton to work with ed tech startups because I knew I had ed tech, educational technology expertise.
Mm-hmm.
So I just gave away some of my stuff and then did a little bit of like freelancing, like writing blogs, but so I could kind of see the inside workings.
Mm-hmm.
So that was certainly something that I worked on. I worked really hard on my resume and making it one page in Canva, highly designed with icons, the whole 9 yards. It probably took me like straight sitting in a creative flow state for about 2 days over a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, and I've talked to a lot of people who are industry, leaders in one industry and wanting to change. That doing that made me think very thoughtfully about what to put on there because whatever's on there, I should have some sort of a story behind, along with some sort of metrics, right? So, like, it
Yeah.
really caused me to sit and think deeply around different metrics that I thought were meaningful and could transfer into the work I'm trying to do
Yeah.
because the nomenclature is different. So, you have to think differently without lying, with still having
Yeah.
integrity for the
Mhm.
what you're presenting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes resumes are, kind of get this bad rap sometimes, but I think the power that you just said is the distilling work. It's the
Yes,
clarifying work. Like you
yes.
can't, it is so much, brevity is hard.
Brevity
I
is
mean,
hard.
we can talk for forever and use lots of words and not say a thing, but brevity requires you to know what you're talking about. And so even the process of building a resume is one that can clarify for you what is important to me. And I love that you attached metrics and story because
Yes.
story is what's going to make you memorable.
And let me be clear. I had 4 job offers with 0 applications filled out. The only thing the resume was for was, like, after initial conversations, like,
Yeah.
"Hey, yeah, could you send me your resume?" So
Hmm.
so, like, the whole idea of landing a job is gonna happen through the application process. That's a hard one for me to believe.
Yeah, it goes, and I think it sometimes depends on level. So, like, if
Yeah,
you're at the level that you are, which that's not always where applications come in. Sometimes they are.
yeah,
It's kind of that weird space. I was in a LinkedIn Live with Kim and a couple other people last week, and we talked about resumes that AI read, and
yeah.
then the resumes that you give somebody later. Like sometimes it's that these double work that we do, but I still think the power is that clarifying. Like you knew what you were going to talk about.
I knew what I was gonna talk about, and I knew I wanted a one-page creative resume, and I wanted somebody who could honor that, right? Like, a company that could see that because I struggled to your point about this AI resume, and I'm like, "That doesn't feel like me, it feels icky." I'm
Mhm.
not creating it, I'm not doing it. It's not right for me. It's
Yeah,
not right for me.
and that worked.
Yeah,
That worked. I mean, and you found what you needed. So, you went through this 3-year process, which is super challenging. And now where are you? I'm like a couple people in the comments are talking about like I've experienced this process and I lost my identity and
mm.
I'm feeling this burnout. Give us some hope about where you are. Like, where did you get to?
Gosh, I love that question because I can't believe right now where I'm at. It's almost
Mhm.
like, is this really my life? Is it possible that I'm home and I'm enjoying my family. I'm not resenting them. I'm not frustrated with them.
Mhm.
I'm not as angry. I'm not as I check my responses. And
Mm.
don't get me wrong, I've put in a lot of the reps to get to this place, meaning, the nutrition, the exercise, the meditation, the structural pieces that help you stay grounded and the things you can rely on. So I'm in a really thankful place and feel the healthiest I felt in 47 years of my life.
I love it. I love it. So I'm going to ask a question for the people in the comments. It's kind of, I call it the Harry Potter wand. That's how we say the words. The Harry Potter wand question. Like, if you could wave a wand, what would that feel like for you? What would it feel like if you were on this other side of the struggle and the depression and the burnout? Like, so Stacey's just described this space of calm, being in control of her emotions, enjoying the presence of her family. What does that look like for you? What would be the great things about the other side of this process for you? Because I think coming back to one of the things you said, had I known what the work was, I don't know if I would have done it. But you presented the valor to get to the other side, and now you're reaping those rewards. And
Mm.
that's really spectacular. And
Mhm.
I think that's that story of hope from, we're just regular women who lead things. you know, but and that means it's possible for you too. It's possible and it's not out of reach for those of you who are listening.
Yeah, there's a spot. I don't know if it's a physical spot, if it's an emotional spot, whatever the spot is for you, but like you have a space inside and something might call it like the still small voice or the knowing or a sense, whatever
Mhm.
the word doesn't matter. How we describe it doesn't matter. What matters is it's a place that is of purity, of innocence. It may be even attached to like if you can think of your earliest most amazing childhood memory, your youngest memory when you were just pure and innocent, and like that space. And don't discount that.
Yeah.
Allow that space or in that place, whatever that means for you. I mean, if you don't know where it is, just ask yourself, like, what might that be? And allow it to kind of unfold. And I really believe for me, it guides me, it shows me the way. It's not so much about a knowing here, but it's a sensing here.
Mhm.
And we all have that. I'm not any more special. Jen's not any more special. We both have that, right? And you do too. So,
Yeah.
so I encourage people just to trust yourself. Trust yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of my keynotes is really about moving from self-doubt to self-trust. Like when we live in that space of self-trust, that is a wholehearted existence that creates peace and flourishing in all the different areas of our life. And I think when we're stuck in the middle of pain, it's really hard to see. It's really
Really hard to.
hard to
That's right.
see.
That's right. That's
So giving yourself some space to figure out what that is, then starts to activate your vision. You have to live in what's called that liminal space, the space in between for a little while to even get there. So, oh my goodness, I just want to keep talking to you.
right.
I'm like, oh. Okay, so tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, and where people can follow you, and like what you're doing here on LinkedIn, and just tell us the
Yeah.
goodness, Stacey.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm working with an education company in a sales role. And I'm learning. It's been 3 months, and I honestly, like, there's many days I'm like, "What am I actually even doing?" Like, do they know, uh, that I don't know what I'm doing, right? Like, and, and I laugh about that, but I also think, like, my boss is lovely, and I think he's just been waiting for me to catch up. Like, yeah, we all know you don't know, and it's okay. So let's admit it, right? On my call with him last Friday, and I was a little emotional. He's like, "We're human. It's great." And
Mm,
so, yeah, just to find me, LinkedIn is the best spot. That's Dr. Stacey Gonzales or Stacey Gonzales, maybe EDD, whatever. Please
mm.
connect with me, reach out, message me. Happy to connect and share anything more with anyone who's listening.
Yeah. Stacey is a great follow. She always puts really great stuff out. And I always love your posts and they encourage me. And so absolutely follow Stacey, connect with her. She is a lovely, lovely human being and a great leader to learn from. If you would like some more help with that, this week I'm doing a workshop called Catalyst Impact, a leadership audit. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to work through where are you in your leadership and what are the areas that you're doing really well in and what are the areas that don't feel quite right and you might need some support in, and just to give you some space to pause, like we were talking about, what's that inner knowing and where am I and where do I want to go. Sometimes it's just nice to have a guide, so I would love to help you work through that. It's a free workshop, and you can go to my website jenwhitmer.com/freebies and sign up there. I'll drop a link in the comments, or just DM me. How's that for confusing? You have 3 different ways you can find it out. That's following none of the rules we're supposed to do when we announce things, but it's okay. Stacey, I am so glad that you came today. I really, really appreciate your time and your wisdom. Just super, super lovely. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for being in the comments and sharing. So glad that you all are here today. Please join me next week. Leo Chan will be here and we're talking about innovation and Lego play, and it's going to be really fun. So check it out next week and we will see you all later. Bye.